Cincinnati gang.
In this video, I'll share my journey from being a construction laborer to becoming a millionaire. I've packed this video with the mindset needed to go from the bottom to becoming a millionaire. So please watch it until the end. Let me start by talking about my starting point and the environment I grew up in. I spent my youth in a single-parent household with a father who works as a construction laborer, 2 older sisters, and 1 younger brother. Although we were a family of 5, we grew up in a small apartment of about 30 square meters. Of course, I didn't have my own room. We laid out, met in a cramped room, and I slept with my father and brother. While Japan is considered a developed country, so we never had to worry about not having food to eat. Within Japan, we were undoubtedly in the category of what would be called a poverty class. We always had financial problems and were constantly struggling with money. As a result, the atmosphere at home was always tense and unpleasant. Still, I consider myself lucky to have been born in a wealthy country like Japan, and I'm truly grateful for that. Because of this background, I developed a strong complex about being poor from elementary school and was determined in my heart that I'll definitely become fucking rich in the future. By the way, even back then, my image of being fucking rich wasn't just a millionaire, but a billionaire. After finishing middle school, I did Dendoro in high school, but after repeatedly violating school rules, I was forcibly expelled from high school about 2 months after enrollment. So I don't have a high school diploma. After dropping out of high school, I naturally started working full-time jobs from the age of 15. My first job was as a construction laborer. This job involves working outdoors from early morning until evening, with almost no days off. It was work every day. In addition to working from early morning to evening, there were frequent night shifts, so I was essentially forced to work almost all day. Even so, my monthly income was only $800 to $1,500 at best. Looking back, I was young and ignorant at the time, so I was being controlled in a way that was convenient for the employer. This amount may be considered high pay in some countries, but considering the cost of living and housing costs in Japan, it's not a sufficient amount in Japan. Besides, my goal was to become fucking rich, so I realized that no matter how much I worked at the construction site, the goal would never be achieved. So I quit my job as a construction laborer after about a year. Of course, the construction industry is a massive industry, so it's possible to become fucking rich if you can handle upstream business as a manager rather than as a laborer. But at the time, I was 15 years old and even struggling to pay monthly rent, so I wanted to earn as much cash as possible as quickly as possible. That's why I worked as a construction laborer for about a year before quitting. The next job I chose after being a construction laborer was door-to-door newspaper sales. There was a clear reason why I chose this job, and it's something everyone who wants to increase their income should know. The reason was that this sales job was fully commission-based. If you couldn't get contracts, your compensation was zero. But if you could secure contracts, you should earn incentive for each contract you got. In other words, I could increase my income depending on my efforts and ability. In contrast, as a construction laborer, no matter how hard I worked, the pay was basically the same. So this door-to-door newspaper sales job was very attractive to me at the time. So I became a salesman. But of course, this job wasn't easy either. In fact, I still honestly think it was the most difficult job I've ever experienced. It was tough, both mentally and technically. When I started the job, there wasn't much detailed guidance from the company. They just gave me a map of the sales area and told me to go get contracts. By the way, there were about 100 employees in the company, but the average age was around 35. And of course, at 16, I was the youngest. Mentally speaking, if you couldn't get contracts, you wouldn't earn any compensation no matter how much you worked. So it was a constant battle with pressure and anxiety. Technically speaking, I was 16 at the time and didn't have much in the way of communication skills. It was very difficult for me to have conversation with strangers strangers or build friendly relationships. In the first then second month of starting this job, I ran around the sales area every day as if my life depended on it, doing door-to-door sales as many households as possible. But I could only get a few contracts a month, and my monthly income was around $200 or less. I remember that the small savings I had earned from the construction site were about to run out. However, even in such a situation, I never stopped thinking positively. Most newcomers couldn't get even one contract in their first month, lost confidence and quit. But I was able to get a few contracts from my first month. Even if it was a small number, there were people who were earning $10,000 a month in this sales job. So I kept pushing myself, telling myself, if others can do it, there's no reason I can't. Besides, I was poor to begin with, so I was more confident than anyone in my stress tolerance and perseverance. In my third month, I was able to earn $2,000 a month, the highest salary in my life, and eventually I grew to earn $5,000 at the age of 17 in this sales job. In this sales job, I learned not only about money, but also various important areas of life, such as communication skills, social skills, and how to be liked by others. These experiences are still very useful even now. I continued this job for about a year and a half, but then I realized something else. While this sales job was commission-based, allowing me to earn rewards for each contract I secured, I still couldn't generate income when I wasn't physically working. In other words, there was a physical limit how much money I could earn. My goal was to become fucking rich, so honestly, I wasn't attracted to the monthly income of $10,000 that the top salespeople in the company were earning. For these reasons, I quit the door-to-door newspaper sales job. After about a year, the next occupation I took up after door-to-door newspaper sales was essentially a recruitment job, introducing women to work as prostitutes in brothels and receiving a referral fee from the brothels. Put it simply, this job is called scout in Japan. This job probably exists only in Japan, and I'm not sure if it exists in other countries. What's important is why I chose this profession, right? The reason lies in the compensation structure of this job. To explain this simply, when I introduced women to work as prostitutes in a brothel, I received about 15% of the amount the women earned as my compensation for as long as she continued to work. In other words, once I introduced a woman to a brothel, I would keep receiving income as long as she continued to work at the establishment. For example, if I introduced 10 women who each earned $10,000 a month to a brothel as labor force, the total amount these women would earn would be $100,000, and 15% of the $15,000 would be paid to me as a referral fee from the brothel. As I mentioned earlier, I'll say it again because it's important. The referral fee is paid to me as long as the woman I introduced continued to work at the establishment. This way, my job was to introduce women to brothels, and it was the women who actually worked with the brothel's customers. So even while I was playing or sleeping, as long as the women I introduced were working, I would generate income. In contrast to the newspaper salesman job where I couldn't generate income unless I was actively working, this scout job removed the physical limitations, and theoretically it became possible to increase income infinitely. I was attracted to this system, which is why I decided to make this my next job after being a newspaper salesman. Specifically, in my case, I would approach women walking on the streets of Shinjuku, Tokyo's busiest entertainment district, exchange contract information, and propose to them, would you like to become a prostitute and earn money? If the woman agreed, I would introduce her to the brothel. From the woman's perspective, she's suddenly being approached by a suspicious stranger and being proposed to become a prostitute. So from my sense, more than 95% of the women I approached showed no interest. In fact, I was basically ignored even if I approached them. However, there were some women who found the job of a prostitute attractive due to the good pay for short hours, so I would introduce such women to brothels. When I put it into words like this, the job of a scout might seem like an evil job that only the mafia would do, but in Japan, there were about 80,000 brothels operated with police approval. And the perception of the sex industry in Japan is surprisingly lenient. By the way, to give you an idea of how many 80,000 brothels there are about 60,000 convenience stores in Japan. So there are more brothels in Japan than convenience stores. Also, strictly speaking, prostitution is illegal in Japan. However, as long as these sex industry operators follow the rules and ethics and don't cause trouble for civilians, the police basically don't crack down on them. This is because the market size of the sex industry in Japan is enormous, ranging from about 45.45 billion to 63.64 billion annually. The sex industry brings massive economic effects to Japan, and as a result, Japan's ruling class also benefits through various channels, so they don't bother to crack down on it. You hear about this kind of things in every country, but it exists even in Japan, a country known for strict rules. I've digressed a bit, but by the age of 20, I was earning over $10,000 a month as a scout, and eventually, I was earning over $20,000 a month. And I continued this scout job for over 7 years. In this job, I was living a life where I would have conversations with over 100 new women every day. So I was able to learn deeply about communication skills with women and female psychology. Eventually, I quit being a scout, and there are two clear reasons for this. First reason, being a scout is illegal, and although it's treated as a minor offense, you do get arrested. You can be detained in a holding cell for up to 23 days and undergo integration by the police and prosecutors. As I mentioned earlier, brothels operate with police approval, and as long as they follow the rules and operate ethically, they basically won't be cracked down. And that's true. However, this scout profession cannot obtain police approval and is invariably illegal. In the end, in my 7th year as a scout, while I was approaching women in Shinjuku as usual, I was surrounded by a group of 5 police officers and arrested on the spot. I spent about 2 weeks in a holding cell, and during that time, I decided that there was no future in continuing this job and made a decision to get out of this work as soon as possible. By the way, the reason I continued this profession for over 7 years is largely because although it wasn't a huge amount of money, I was earning a decent income. As mentioned earlier, I was eventually earning over $20,000 a month in this job. So I didn't have any financial difficulties and was completely in my comfort zone. After hearing this story, you probably thought, why did you choose an illegal job in the first place? The answer is that at 17, I concluded that being a scout was the most efficient way to earn money, and even if I got arrested, it would only be a maximum of 23 days in detention. So honestly, I didn't care about the level of risk. Looking back now, I'm well aware that there were other more efficient jobs out there. However, for the 17-year-old me at that time, this was the best solution I could think of. The purpose of this video is to honestly share my journey to becoming a millionaire, so I hope you can overlook this part. Second reason, my goal is to become fucking rich, that is a billionaire. But even the highest earning person in the scout profession at that time was earning about $1 million a year, which I didn't find attractive. This is because I'm aiming to be a billionaire, and I wanted to consume more than $1 million a month to enrich my life. Despite this, the reason I continued the scout job for over 7 years was, as I mentioned earlier, because it was my comfort zone and was somehow comfortable. The trigger that allows me to quit that job was undoubtedly getting arrested. The next profession I chose after being a scout was IT programmer. Given my previous career path, you might think, why suddenly an IT programmer? But I have 5 clear reasons for choosing to be an IT programmer. At that time, the demand for IT programmers was rapidly increasing in Japan. 2. With just a PC, you can work anywhere without location constraints, which is what's known as a nomad worker, and I was aspiring to that lifestyle. 3rd, I liked traveling abroad since then and wanted to move overseas someday, so being an IT programmer, which allows for remote work, was a good fit. I could vividly imagine myself living abroad. 4th, In the IT industry, there were many people around the world who had become billionaires at the young age. So I thought I could eventually start a business in this industry and achieve monumentally success. 5. IT programming is based on meritocracy, and I judged that with skills alone, even someone like me who hadn't even graduated from high school could succeed. I was confident that if I seriously sacrificed time and effort and devoted myself to learning, I could definitely reach the top level even if it took time. For those 5 reasons, I decided to become an IT programmer. When I was working as a scout, I was eventually able to earn an income that was more than enough to live comfortably, but it wasn't a socially acceptable profession. Of course, I wanted to achieve success in a legal and sustainable way, so when I found IT programmer profession, I remember feeling excited, thinking this is it. However, I hadn't even graduated from high school, let alone have any IT skills. So first, I decided to attend the programming school to learn programming. This is a bit of a digression, but basically, when I learn something new, I always hire a consultant or coach or attend a school rather than self-studying. Of course, it requires financial investment, but I still make the maximum effort to somehow come up with the money. This is because it's obviously possible to achieve my goals several times faster by learning from professionals in the field rather than self-studying. Looking at the world, most people hesitate to invest in their own education even before they succeed. Yet they waste money on short-term pleasures like alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, and unnecessary hangouts. But fortunately, I fully understood the importance of self-investment when I was 50 and working at the construction site. So I decided to always prioritize investing in myself until I could earn a sufficient amount of money. I don't want you to misunderstand here, but self-investment doesn't just mean financial investment. It refers to all the resources you have, such as time, energy, relationships, etc. So thinking I can't self-investment because I don't have money is just a loser's excuse. Keep these thoughts in mind. Getting back to the story, I started attending a programming school. I spent about 12 hours a day studying, continued this for about 5 months, and finally graduated from the school and was able to work as an intern at an IT company. My life at that time was like this. I wake up at 5 a.m., arrive at a cafe near the company, an hour later at 6 a.m., desperately study programming at the cafe, work at office from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., then study programming again after returning home and go to bed at 10 p.m. At that time, while I was positive about being an IT programmer, I honestly realized that it wasn't a profession that could bring out my full potential, and I struggled with this every day. Because of this, my head was always filled with questions like, is it appropriate to invest this precious time in this profession now when I'm young, healthy, and full of energy? Would I really not regret this choice in the future? Isn't there another profession that can bring out my potential to the fullest? And finally, I decided to discontinue my choice of being an IT programmer. There were 3 reasons for this. First, for me, programming was not fun at all and was just boring. But there are people in the world who love programming, and I thought I could never beat such people no matter what. Second, I was convinced that I should fight in a field where I can demonstrate 100% of my potential. Third, I realized that my goals of being able to work remotely as a nomad worker, living abroad, and becoming a billionaire weren't things that could only be achieved by being an IT programmer. I could change the means without changing the goals. The next profession I chose after IT programmer was YouTuber. There were 4 reasons for this. First, the YouTuber profession was producing many young millionaires, and there were many people living the lifestyle I aspire to. Second, as a YouTuber, I thought I could achieve all the goals I had when I chose to be an IT programmer. Being able to work remotely as a nomad worker, moving abroad, and becoming a billionaire. Third, I was convinced that personal brand and influence would be advantageous no matter what business I do. Fourth, I thought that as a YouTuber, I could fully demonstrate my talents, and at the same time, I was confident that I could succeed. For these 4 reasons, I decided to become a YouTuber, and I decided to focus my content on everything necessary to attract women. The reason I chose to share methods to attract women was because I had over 7 years of experience as a scout. During that time, I lived a life of making good approaches to women every day, so I was confident in my understanding of female psychology and how to handle women. Also, simply put, methods attract women have demand from all men, so I thought this could be a winning strategy, and I started posting YouTube videos. However, just posting videos on YouTube only earns a tiny amount of ad revenue from YouTube, so to create a source of income, about 2 months after I started posting YouTube videos, I launched a community service for about $15 per month, and about 4 months after the launch, I had over 100 customers. In this community, customers could contact me both offline and online, and I answered all questions from customers. However, even with 100 customers, it was a low-priced product. So even with 100 customers, the revenue was only $1,500, and I had one business partner besides myself, so after paying him, the net profit left for me was extremely small. Because of this, I realized I needed to create a high-priced product, which led to the launch of a personal training service. By the way, the personal training service I launched wasn't just about teaching training, but also included both offline and online interaction on how to attract women. A fit and healthy body significantly contributes to attracting women, so launching personal training was natural. Fortunately, my business partner and I have been doing weight training since our teens, so it wasn't difficult for us to teach training to beginners. Also, we didn't need to invest from scratch to develop a gym to instruct customers. We were able to instruct in small-scale gyms that could be rented for about $10 per hour. So we were able to launch the service with zero initial investment. At that time, personal training services were booming in Japan, and the selling prices were high. The largest personal training service listed on the Japanese stock market was charging over $4,000 for 16 sessions of 80 minutes each. Following this, I started offering personal training at almost the same price range. At that time, our only advertising medium was a YouTube channel with about 3,000 subscribers, so we certainly couldn't acquire a large number of customers, but we were still acquiring several new customers every month. Due to the high unit price, our monthly sales ranged from $10,000 to over $30,000 in good months. However, at the same time, I began to see limitations. While personal training is indeed high-priced and can earn a decent amount, in the end, I had to actually instruct customers in the gym, so there were limits to both location and financial freedom. Of course, if I had taken a completely managerial position and expanded the personal gym business by hiring employees, it would have been possible to achieve both location and financial freedom. However, the personal gym industry has a lot of competition, and there's a certain hurdle to success. Plus, I found it too troublesome to hire and manage many employees, so moving in this direction was out of the question. Because of this, I decided to quit the personal training business, and at the same time, resolved to create a business model that was completely online and had no limit income. The next business I undertook after the personal training gym was a coaching and mentoring service that taught everything necessary to attract women. I made this business completely online and priced it high, with price ranging from $7,000 to $70,000. I continued this business model for about 3 years and eventually managed to generate an annual profit of $1.4 million. As a result, I became a millionaire at just 28 years old. If you want to know specifically how I earned money in this business, I explain that in this video, so please check it out. As a side note, I've already transferred 100% of the rights to this business to my former business partner for almost free, and I'm no longer involved in this business at all. The reason for this is to fully commit to this YouTube channel. That's the trajectory I've walked to go from being a construction laborer to becoming a millionaire. However, my goal is to become a billionaire, so I will definitely achieve that. Here's an announcement for those who've watched this far. I went from being a construction laborer who didn't even finish high school to becoming a millionaire by the age of 28. Achieving both financial and location freedom. I'm offering detailed insights and methods on how I did it, as well as other valuable tips including how to attract the 10 out of 10 girl, cold approach skills, communication skills, social skills, how to master dating gaps, how to build a healthy muscular body, creating a clean polished appearance, fashion coordination that attracts women, building confidence, problem-solving techniques, and practical thinking for all areas of life, and more. All this information is available for free through my newsletter. You can learn from my content in both English and Japanese, and my newsletter is available in both languages as well, so you can access the same material in either English or Japanese. Since this free offer might end without notice, make sure to sign up for my newsletter through the link in the video description now to get it for free. Thank you sincerely for watching until the end. I hope this video has been of some value to you. I'll continue the hard work and I encourage you to do the same. Wishing you success in your endeavors. Let's meet again in the next video!